Hello, I'm joined again by our good friend and one of my favorite guests, Mr. Richard Megson from Comply ASAP. How are you doing?
I'm very good, David. Very good indeed. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. I don't know about you, but I can't seem to read any industry press every morning without seeing at least a story about possible fines, about AML. There are warnings, and we've done this before as an industry. We've talked about it is coming, it is going to get more stringent. And finally, it feels that that's actually happening within that space. So just to sort of put it into context, we all need to run all our clients, but not just our primary clients, which are our vendors and the people that we are legally obliged to represent, but also anybody that sort of offers on a property, anybody that we deal with, financially at all. We need to run them through anti-money laundering checks. Yeah. And it's been a little bit of a wild west out there because agents have been using their own interpretation as to what's adequate, what's not adequate. But it's now an essential part of the sales progression cycle. At some point in that cycle, what kicks it off is we need to get some AML out of people as well. And I suppose that's why the perfect marriage between what you do and adding this sort of compliance section to it as well. So just take us through your, how this came about.
Yeah, okay. So, but just in terms of your comments about it seems to be in the media every day, it is. I think the regulations are onerous for agents and will become increasingly so. The amount of fines is increasing. And I think agents are firmly on the radar of HMRC. So that's the sort of bad news. Those are the sort of the shock headlines. But yeah, it is and will always be the agent's risk to verify a client's ID before they put the property on the market. But there are a number of solutions out there, and what we're doing with the launch of Comply is to provide a standalone service or in conjunctions with some of the other services that we offer, so conveyancing and sales progression. But ultimately, Comply is what we call enhanced due diligence. So it's a process, a service that will mitigate an agent's risk, will, I guess, to steal a phrase that you used on a Zoom earlier this morning that I saw, allow agents to sleep at night. That's David Mintz, not Richard Megson. But also to improve the customer journey as well, because an agent is required to verify a client's ID, as are a solicitor. So potentially, for some clients, they're paying twice and they're having to go through that process twice. Our service allows the client to do it once and pay for it once.
Yeah, and that is, when you're talking to, from my experience anyway, as an agent, when you're talking to a client about anti-money laundering, they will always say to you, I've already had to do that with my solicitor. And, it's heartbreaking sometimes to turn around to them and say, I'm sorry, I need you to come out again and go through all of that information with me, because we need to do it as well. And then, and sometimes that happens vice versa. We're the first ones in, and then the solicitors get instructed later. Yeah. And in your heart of hearts, you think, well, this shouldn't be so difficult. We're all doing the same thing. Can we not just pass it on? But I suppose in your world, that's more joined up, because it's being, that AML is actually being completed by the people handling the conveyancing as well.
Well, when we were putting this service together, I mean, one of the problems we were trying to solve was the duplication. So we, as you know, have been in this space for 9 years, and one of the biggest bugbears of clients and agents is, I have to do it twice. So there's a big onus on the agent to do it. Sucks a lot of time in terms of administration, but it needs to be done, and it needs to be done properly. Agents have got different ways of doing it. Not all of them are getting it right, sadly, hence the fines. But when we were putting this together, we showed samples of the ID check to our solicitors, the solicitors that we work with, past conveyancing referrals to or instructions to, and all of them will accept it. So even those agents that are just using us for Comply, I'm giving them a sample and saying, right, fine, I understand you use your own solicitors, but show them it, see whether they would accept it. And the response is positive. So, you know, I'm a big believer in customer journey. And, you know, when you're putting a property on the market, when you've had an offer accepted, you know, generally speaking, most, not all circumstances, but plenty of circumstances, clients are excited, and then they're getting bogged down in ID straight away. They're getting bogged down in all the legal documentation that
and I've got to tell you something. It's awkward. I mean, we spoke off camera before, and I used the phrase that it's sometimes awkward to chase clients for these sort of things. And I want to explain myself because I don't think I was probably clear on that. As agents, we go in, we're advising people on how to move best, how to achieve the best results for them. They'll have a reason why they're moving, and we're there to sort of facilitate that. We are experts on marketing, we're experts on negotiation. That's where we add our value as agents, if you like. What we aren't we're not great at being sort of passport border control checks. We don't feel entirely comfortable sometimes being that first port of call with AML. And I'd rather have that outsourced almost as a professional service, so that actually what we say is, look, this company's going to contact you. They're going to, they handle that. I handle making your house look amazing online. I handle getting the best buyers through your door, but they handle all of that. And to me, I think that actually comes across as being much more professionally managed for an agent, for an agent's clients, when you look at that sort of customer journey process.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in agents' offices before, and they've all got manila folders for each particular transaction, and you open it up and go, where's the ID? And somebody's forgot to put a photocopy of the. So, you know, the paper journey is onerous and increases the admin. What we're doing is this is a digital journey. Now, there will always be some clients where that's, you know, it doesn't work for them. And if we're generalizing, probably people over a certain age, but for the vast majority of people, they expect a digital journey, which is what this is. So in terms of our process, the agent, you know, we've got our own portal, they can email, whatever it is, passes their clients' details, explain that we will be contacting them to verify their ID. Once we've spoken to the client and explained the process, we will literally email them a link. They just follow the process on their phone, their laptop, and can complete it very, very quickly, very simply. One of the things that we did when we were putting it together was we basically said to the agent, you do your ID so you can actually see what your customer will go through.
Yeah.
And it's very straightforward. One of the concerns from some of the agents we spoke to was, is this going to delay me putting the property on the market? And the results so far is the ID is coming back in 24 hours. So there's no delay. But I keep repeating it. It's all about the customer journey. And once they do it once, they won't need to do it again. Yeah,
no, I think that's essential. And it also feels like there's nothing worse than a customer journey that you promise them fireworks and then nothing happens afterwards. I think as part of that first steps, if you like, of onboarding a new client, getting that AML done properly and correctly, because every agent will have slight nuances in how they wish to position it. Yeah. So just to recap, I don't need to use you necessarily for sales progression. I can come along to you and say, Richard, I fancy making my life easier when it comes to AML. I want a robust process in place. And you can provide that as a standalone service.
Yeah, I mean, since we launched Comply, I've been approached by quite a lot of agents that just want to use us for our enhanced ID, and that's absolutely fine. What we're trying to do, I mean, the headline is always, if you get this wrong, you're going to prison or you're going to get battered with a fine. I'm not really waving that flag. What I'm saying is it is onerous. There is risk attached. But you can put a process in place that is robust and will minimize your risk. So I'm not, I don't need to inflate the risks of getting this wrong because it's self-evident, because you read the media every day. But it needn't be onerous, and it needn't carry that level of risk. You can absolutely mitigate your risk using a provider that has got a robust process in place. Now, you know, other solutions apply, but today I'm talking about comply.
So in terms of these, there are solutions out there that are built just like comply to make that AML verification process smoother, more professional, and just really to give the agents that additional peace of mind. But there's a cost attached to it as well, and there's a conversation to be had really as to where agents wish to push it, because some agents say, well, okay, it's a cost that we bear as part of our sales process, and they just swallow it. They appreciate it adds value. It's one of their duties. And there are some agents that have chosen to look at it as an additional service that they charge to their clients. Where do you guys sit on that?
Well, I don't sit anywhere, because ultimately I'm not going to tell the agent what they shouldn't or shouldn't do. So in terms of what comply is, because I actually haven't described the service yet, it's facial recognition, address verification, ID document authenticity checks. I almost got that out. A comprehensive suite of AML checks and the provision of the land registry documents. So, you know, really robust information coming back on the client. Is there an opportunity to monetize this? Yes, there is. And a number of agents are doing so. So in terms of our standard charges, each client is charged £7.50 per person, including VAT, and the land registry documents are £6.50, including VAT. We can either collect the money direct from the client, and I would say the majority of our agents are doing that. They simply say, we're legally required to verify you, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. We use a company called ASAP. They will call you and they will charge you X. Not getting,
because if they were onboarding at a solicitor's practice, they'd
absolutely.
be
I mean,
as well, wouldn't they? Yeah.
There's just been no pushback at all, because ultimately, as long as it's explained as a legal requirement, which it is, they're passing it to a third party to do the process, the fulfillment, and that's a key piece. We do the fulfillment, so the agent gets a PDF of the ID back and the land registry document, so it's delivered back to them. But so, as I said, the agent can pay probably about 10%, pick it up, but the vast majority, we collect the money direct from the client, and a reasonable proportion will carry an uplift. And that uplift is passed back to the agent once a month. Now, when we looked at this, we wanted to make sure there was a benefit to the client, and the benefit absolutely is you only need to do it once, and you'll only be charged once. Now, I'll caveat that with our solicitors will accept it. Some solicitors that we don't work with may take the view that they want to do it themselves. That's entirely their call. What we're finding with the agents that we work with for our full service who are using comply, their conversion rates to our solicitors are increasing simply because the benefits are manifold to the client. You only have to do it once, you'll only be charged once.
I think it's a no-brainer sort of going forward that you'd want that. I mean, I think back to the early days of when AML first started to come on everybody's radar, and we would do daft things in retrospect when I think about it. But yes, come into the office and bring in a copy of your passport or your driving license, and I would sit there photocopying these documents, and every time I did that, I thought to myself, I'd have no idea if this was a real passport or not, or a real driving license. I mean, it's a real responsibility that you're taking on. And also the collection and the storage of that documentation and all the sort of regulations that go along with that. It's no small undertaking, and you can't afford to now approach it. I mean, the headlines will bear that out. I'm not using them to scare anybody. Like you say, that is now a reality. But that reality is that we need to take ownership of this. We need to upgrade what we were doing on AML. We can't scrape by anymore.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, a paper trail, by definition, is going to be far weaker than a digital trail. But I think to a degree, COVID has had an impact on this. Obviously, you couldn't go into somebody's office. And I think in terms of tech, you know, if you can sort of put a process in place that sort of automates the mundane, and that I would like to take credit for, but it's not mine. Can't remember who said it. Could even be you, Mincy. But this is an area where you can actually automate the mundane. And I think the digital journey is a massive step forward versus a paper trail.
I
think COVID has accelerated that,
yeah.
And it will only accelerate.
I think it's generally speaking an upgrade on that customer experience, that customer journey. And
no doubt about it.
What do we always say? You never get a second chance to make a first impression. And if that first impression is that ID checks and all the information gathering that goes on at that mundane part of the process, yeah, you could sprinkle a little bit of magic into that. So it's yeah, fantastic. Richard, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us about it.
My pleasure. I mean, talking about AMLs for 20 minutes or whatever it's been is challenging, but hey.
You've done well to put up with me for this amount of time, let me tell you.
And vice versa, Mr. Mintz.
Thank you.